Hi, everyone. Maggie Ostara here, and I'm delighted to connect with you today. Welcome to those of you who are watching us live today on YouTube or on Facebook, and to those of you who will be watching the recording later. Welcome, welcome. So I want to just really thank all of you who have been kind of dedicated followers of my human design transit reports. I've been doing them for almost 3 years. In January 2024, it'll be 3 years. And I've done them pretty much every week. You know, every once in a while I miss one because I'm whatever, sick or out of town or something like that. But by and large, I have released one of those every week. And during that time, as I've observed, I've just kind of looked to see what what the patterns are, right? And they start to appear after a while. So, what I want to share with you today are some insights that I hope are going to really support you in terms of considering where you're putting your attention, where you're using your energy, and what kind of guidance are you relying on in your life these days. Because as we all know, we're in a very potent time here on planet Earth, right? There's just a lot that is going on. There's a lot that's coming to the surface that's kind of been underground, if you will. There's a lot that's being reconsidered. There's a lot that we're awakening to, right? That we're becoming aware of. There's a lot that we're starting to actually get a new perspective on that we always took for granted before. But now we're going, you know what? We can't do it the way we've been doing it. So I think that this can create a lot of anxiety, a lot of disappointment, frustration, despair, fear, all of those things. So if you've been experiencing any of that, I just want you to know, of course, you are so not alone, right? And there's a lot that's going on in the collective right now. So what I want to share with you is some insights that are coming in particular from the energies from the planets that have been affecting the collective in 2023. And I'm going to let you know, if you want to do some further study for yourself, how you can engage with that if this is an area that you're particularly interested in. I will be shifting how I'm going to be doing the transit reports next year. And I'm not 100% sure exactly what that's going to look like yet, but just know that that will be shifting because I'm going to be starting a podcast on feminine sovereignty, and that's going to be taking a lot more of my time. And so I'll be doing that. I will still do transit reports. I will still do videos on human design, of course. But I'm also going to be putting more energy into feminine sovereignty. And for those of you who may not have seen this yet, my book on feminine sovereignty, 8 Pillars for Regenerating Ourselves and Our World, came out November 2nd. We had a stellar, ridiculously successful book launch, as what one of my partners said. And so that's a really exciting development for me because it's a culmination of my life's work. And I want to help you kind of understand that human design and quantum human design is a powerful system for illuminating qualities of energy. And we'll talk about this with the insights in the transit report today. Illuminating qualities of energy that are not well understood, not well appreciated by the overculture, and that we can really have a better understanding of our wholeness and of what are the different energies that can support us when we turn to the human design system. One of the things I do a lot when I am doing readings is I help people understand energies that they have access to that are defined or colored into their chart. that they may not have ever really explored because their conditioning didn't tell them it was valuable. And this is really leaves us at being a fraction of who we are and using just a fraction of our capacity. So I want to help you understand that today. That's a big part of the purpose of why I wanted to share these insights with you. Because when I really started to get this, I was like, oh wow, this is really big. And I don't know that anybody's really talking about it in this particular way. So having said that about human design, it's very good for illuminating things that we have been conditioned away from. And it's very good at illuminating ways that we can move from what I consider a disempowered expression of a particular energy or the shadow expression. So the disempowered is when we feel like we're at the mercy of something or we've rejected it. Okay, like so for people who reject like their emotional energy, right? That's disempowered because emotional energy is very powerful. It's actually a superpower, but we often reject our emotional energy, reject what's coming from the emotional solar plexus, right? So then it's disempowered when we do that. Or shadow, which is when we use the energy to try to control or manipulate other people or situations. Most of us have been trained to do this. This is how we're supposed to live in life. Not really true. And we're evolving out of this kind of power over paradigm that we have been in for a long time. This is the legacy of empire that we're evolving out of. And then the more awakened and empowered expression, it just, so if we go back to emotional energy again, for example, being able to use emotional energy to supercharge what you're focused on and what you desire so that it'll manifest faster in your life, right? So every aspect of the human design system and really aspects of life can be looked at in those different ways. Are we inhabiting it in a awakened and empowered state, which means that we're really behind what's good for, the highest good for all? Or are we trying to invoke power over others? Or are we feeling like we're being subordinated or even giving away our power to others? So this is a huge topic that I talk about a lot in human design, and it actually organizes a lot of what's in feminine sovereignty. But human design is also an incomplete system in the sense that it doesn't show us how to decondition. It doesn't show us how to change, right? It can point to, if you're feeling disempowered over here, you could empower yourself this way by starting to inhabit and express the more higher frequency expression of that aspect of your chart. But it doesn't tell you how to do that. And it doesn't tell you how to decondition. And this is why in feminine sovereignty, we have two main wisdom traditions that are included. We have human design, but we also have Kundalini yoga. Now, there are lots of different ways to move energy. There are other human design specialists and experts who use other forms. Some people use essential oils. Some people use emotional freedom technique. Some people use flower essences. I mean, there's all kinds of different ways that you can change your energy. I really like Kundalini yoga, and you can find it on my YouTube channel, and you can find it inside of the Becoming Sovereign Quantum Retreat Center, where I have done a lot of teaching in there. So I make that available to you. But whatever you decide to do, just realize that human design is foundational, it's key, but it's partial. It's insufficient on its own. And so that's why I really encourage you to come and check out Feminine Sovereignty and check out the book. And I'll be doing programs on it next year. They'll all include human design. But what we need is a complete system for transformation and evolution. And so that's really what I'm about, is being able to show that to you. So today, as we're going through and looking at the insights from the 2023 transit reports, I want you to just kind of feel into for yourself. If you're aware of having felt differently at different times during the course of the year, some of us are very affected by seasons. I know we've got some friends from who are in the summer who are here today, and some of us are in the winter. So it's going to depend a little bit on what's true for you, where you've been, and also, your own preferences and things like that. But how have you felt during the course of the year? And has there been any kind of overriding feeling that you've had? And And then one of the ways that the transit reports can help you is to see how it changes over the course of the year. But what I'm going to focus on today is actually not really so much what we cover in the transit reports, but what has been influencing us more collectively. Okay, so I just want to say hello to any of you. I would invite you to go ahead and say hello in the comments. Do put in questions. I'll come back with questions. I'll make sure to stay on to answer any questions, to read your comments. If you want to say where you're coming in from, we always love to hear that. You could also let us know if you're like a regular. I mean, I would personally love to know, like, have you been following the transit reports? And if so, what have you gotten out of the transit reports? That would actually be really, that would be really fun for me. Okay, so we've got, here's a question from Beyond the Brand in Sweden. I have a question. How much do you think generators get affected by the planet's transits? I know we are much more, but how much from the planets? Everybody's affected by the transits. Doesn't matter what your type is. Yeah, I'm not quite. If you want to say a little bit more about that, why generators would not be affected by the transits, just because we have a defined sacral, it doesn't mean we're not influenced by the transits. Okay, everybody's influenced by the transits. What differs is how your own specific chart then relates to what's happening in the transit chart, and that varies for everybody. So yeah, no, it absolutely affects all of us. Okay. Oh, so open-hearted human design says, I felt it when the planets went out of retrograde. What a release. Awesome. Okay. Natalie says she's happy to be here. Oh, he followed my my reports for almost every one of them. That's awesome. Thank you. I'm always glad to know, because I put these things out there. I know people watch them, but I never kind of know. Okay. Carrie's watching the sunrise in Australia. Welcome, Carrie. I'm glad you're here. Purple Rice here from London. We've got Soul Traveling from Italy. Oh, I love that. And Madura says, love the transit reports. Always helps me to get a better sense of how to manage my energy for the transit, and often gives me more agency around how to manage difficulties. Right, exactly. I think they can be enormously beneficial because we're all being influenced by these different pieces, right? So, and then we also have the Netherlands represented. Oh, this is the new OS. It decided that we should have a thumbs up. Will it give me one when I ask for it? I agree. And then Patricia from Australia. Welcome, welcome. Lauren's here from Ireland. And she's new to the work. That's great. And as I've learned is that reflectors are affected more than generators and projectors. So we have more interpersonal auras. That's a whole conversation I'm not going to get into today, but, and we have Poland represented, California. The thing I would say about that is that, charts are so incredibly different from each other. And type only tells you a little bit about it. And so I'm just a big fan of saying that we need to, what's the right way to say this? Really pay attention to everybody's chart and not make these huge generalizations. That's, the bottom line for me. It's okay when you're starting, but it sounds like you've been doing this work for a few years now. And I would say move beyond just looking at type, because there's so much more that's available. Okay. Oh, and hi, Holly. She's here from Arizona. Thanks for the session. Just started looking at the transit reports. Great. Okay. So let's dive into, let me just see. This is new technology for me, everybody. So give me a little, affirmation and blessing that I manage all of this well. Okay. I think I'm doing great with the, with YouTube over here. I'm just going to see if this actually has been happening. Okay. No, I don't know that it's actually happening on you. It's supposed to be happening on Facebook, but I'm not sure that it is. Looks like it might not be. Okay. I'm not going to worry about it. So we're good on Facebook or on YouTube. So One thing I want to say as we get into the talking about the transits and stuff is I really like this ephemeris. If you want to get into this more, this is from Zen Human Design. Zen Human Design. He also creates ones that are just a year and they're small. They're kind of nice. You can carry them around with you. So if you want to, you can just get 1 year. You know me, I'm a professional, so of course I have I have them through 2075. Okay. I probably won't be here then, but you know what? But you can get this if you want to follow along what's happening with the transits, because it has all the planets and what gates they're in and where it changes. So this is what I use when I'm looking at what's happening with the transits. So it's really helpful. All right, let me see if I can bring up my slideshow. Well, now is that going? Can I share a part of the screen? Window. There we go. Okay. Thank you for your patience. Okay. Can you just pop in the chat if you can see this picture of the planets? Can you guys just give me a thumbs up? Yes, I can see it. Or no, I can't see it. Yes, yes. Okay, great. Awesome. All right, let me go back here then. Oh, I can see myself here. There we go. Thank you for your patience with this. Like I said, this is new technology for me. I really like it though, and it's fun to stream. Okay, everybody can see it. All right, so here we are. This is what these are the planets, the major planets, in order, right? And so this is how we tend to think about them. I just saw this video actually on Facebook, and I just have to share it with you. Check this out. You might not be able to hear the music, but that's okay. Uh-oh, sorry. Start that again. Take a look at that. It's just constantly spiraling around our sun in all kinds of different ways. Spiral, spiral, spiral. Isn't that just the coolest? So I love that. One of the things I love about that is that it really shows us how the sun is moving on its trajectory, right? It's moving on its trajectory through the galaxy, doing its thing. And the planets are all just spinning, spinning, spinning around, spiraling, spiraling. It's not like there's this flat plane where all the different planets are going around. It's like so dynamic and so spiraling. And one of the things I love about that is that the the universe is really based on spiraling energy. It's not linear. Like lines actually don't really exist in the living world. They exist to some degree in the mineral world, where we could get the sides of the crystals, or slate will break and you can get something that feels kind of linear lines. But in the living world, there are no lines in the living world. And so you get to see this spiraling action. And my book is actually based on spiraling. So I just love that. It's incredible. And it's either on my profile on Facebook, or I will put it on there if you want to go see it again, because it's just amazing. So another thing I just want to emphasize here for us to think about is that the sun is such a force of belonging for us. You could see how the gravity of the sun, it's constantly holding the planets into these different orbits, right? Well, the same is true for the Earth, is a gravity as a force of belonging for us on our Earth. And so if you ever feel disconnected, separate, like you don't belong, you don't know where you belong, just remember that you've got this force of belonging right underneath you, holding you, all the time. And this is a primary relationship that we have with our beautiful earth. Okay. So just to orient you a little bit to transits, because sometimes I think people don't really understand how transits work. So one thing I want to point out here is this is let me just tell you what you're looking at when you look at the mandala. So around the outside of the mandala are the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching. Okay. And then inside of that are these little hash marks, and those are the lines that you see in profile. So these are the lines of the gates. In here are the numbers of the gates. And inside of that, you can see the astrological symbols. And then inside of that, you can see where the planets are. Okay. These are the planetary symbols inside of the mandala. And so this is actually the human design system right here, that is in the mandala. And so the planets all move counterclockwise around the mandala, except when they're retrograde, and then they go back. And I am going to release tomorrow a video about Mercury's retrograde cycle that we're in right now. And I'm going to I'm going to just show you some images and talk a little bit more about how that retrograde works around the mandala. So if you're interested in that, you can go and check that out. So, but this is basically how it works. And the human design new year starts when the sun enters the gate 41, which it enters around January 20th, 21st, 22nd. And I believe it's January 22nd in coming up next month. So this is where it starts. Okay. And then the sun and the earth always travel together on opposite sides of the mandala, and they travel around the mandala together. And that's what the weekly transit reports are really about, is about how they are moving around the mandala like this. Okay. And if you want to see it as kind of 3D, you can, right? So it's a little bit more of a spiraling action. Okay. So then, I wanted to give you a sense of how long it takes these different heavenly bodies, these different beautiful, centers of consciousness, because all of the planets are alive, right? Everything has consciousness. And so these are kind of great teachers who are there, that are beaming to us their particular energy and their particular wisdom as they move around the mandala. So this is the sun and this is the earth, and they travel together, and they go through all 64 gates in 365 days. Okay, so they're going around. Might be a little different than 365 because none of these things are really exact, and the Gregorian calendar that we live in anyway isn't exact. And so just have a little, flexibility around that. But you can see these two travel together. Now, Mercury, interestingly enough, also goes through approximately 64 gates in 365 days. Now, that also includes 3 and sometimes 4 retrograde periods that are about 3 weeks long. So even though by the end of the year, Mercury will come back to approximately the same place, he will have also gone back and forward again. So it's a little more complicated than that. And like I said, check out that video I'm going to release tomorrow to get more details about that. But then you go to the moon. The moon goes through 64 gates in approximately 30 days. Okay. It's like it goes through about 2 gates a day. 2 to 3 gates a day. So it's constantly changing. So for example, if you're going to run a human design chart and you don't know the time, and you're going to look at different times through the day, one of the things that will change will be where the moon is. That, and the other thing that often will change are the lines of the profile, just so you know. But the moon will change if you pick it at different points during the day. And then and so for, this is the thing about reflectors, right? And one of you was talking about reflectors is that they will feel the moon moving through those 64 gates in the course of 30 days. And this is why we say I like to say they have lunar authority rather than no authority. But it's really about their quality, their felt sense while the moon is going through those 64 gates, rather than it being a particular form of intuition as all the other authorities are. Then Venus goes through approximately 357 days, so just a little shy of a year. But again, Venus also retrogrades. So we are going to see that in the planets. And then Mars, 35 gates in 365 days, right? So he's only going a little less than half or a little more than halfway around in that amount of time. So you can see when we were looking at that image, what they were all spiraling around, and some of them are closer in, right? These are all the closer in ones, and then the farther ones out, they get, the orbits are really very different. Okay, so this piece I want to share with you. Just do your best to take this in, and then of course you can always come back and review this. So the outer planets, okay, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, and Saturn, are considered, and particularly Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus, are considered kind of collective energies, generational energies. And the reason for that is that they stay in astrological signs for a long time, but they also stay in human design gates for a long time. So just looking at 2023, Pluto was in the gate 60 the entire year. Neptune in the gate 36 the entire year. They're longer than that. I didn't go back and review all their retrogrades, but sometimes they're in a gate for 2 or 3 years because they also retrograde every year. Sometimes for significant periods of time. Last year, I did a whole deep dive into the retrogrades of the outer planets. You can go find the playlist for that if you want to find out more and just kind of see how all that works. And then here, Uranus was just in 2 gates, again, including retrograde, right? The 2 and the 23 all year. And then Saturn was only in 3 gates the whole year. Okay. So you can see that these big bodies of energy, these big consciousness are beaming down through that human design mandala, right? So if you think of that mandala, and then the energy, if you take it and you actually lay it on top of the earth like this, and the energy is coming in from all of those swirling planets, and it's coming in through that mandala, right? And then it's imprinting into our world. And so it's influencing every person on the planet, and it will influence you differently depending on if you have one of these gates already defined in your chart or not. But it's, even if you have it defined in your chart, having these planets just beaming and beaming and beaming is going to be an influence. But it's also, like I said, it's influencing the collective. So let's take a look at these gates. Now, I'm just really talking about totals here. I'm not going into a deep dive on each of those gates, but something really interesting is happening here. And this really leads me to the main insights that I want to share. So there are 7 gates total, okay, that those planets are lighting up. 4 of them are in the knowing circuit. 2 are in the sensing circuit, and 1 is in the tribal circuit. Okay. So the knowing circuit is individual circuitry. It's here to be different. It's here to bring change. It doesn't fit in. It's where the evolutionary impulse of humanity runs through the chart, is what individual circuitry is. Okay. So that means that we have had Pluto and Uranus in particular beaming to these gates, the 60, the 2, and the 23, all in the knowing circuit. And what's the other one? And then the 55, Saturn has been in the 55. That's also in the knowing circuit. And so these outer planets, these great teachers, are all saying, how are you doing with your intuition? How are you doing with being willing to receive the really leading edge breakthrough possibilities and potentials that these planets are bringing you? How are you deciding what you're going to receive and then what you're going to act on, right? And 2 of them are in the sensing circuit, which is right-brained energy. It's creative, it's abstract, it's embodied, it's experiential, it's connected to the all that is. We'll talk about that more in a minute. It's very, it's creative. It's where we get these kind of epiphanies that come from. Okay, so 2 are in the sensing circuit. That's collective circuitry, which means that it's really influencing all of us. And then just 1 in the tribal circuit, the 37, which is friendliness. It's an emotional energy about friendliness. So none of them are in the logic circuit. None of them. So take that in for a minute. The 4 outer planets that are constantly beaming to us, what we should be paying attention to and how we're being influenced generationally and collectively, none of it's logical. None of it's analytical. None of it's strategic. And yet this is how the overculture has taught us to think, to make decisions, to move forward in our lives. Okay, it's taught us to think that only things we can look at logically are valid, only things we can test and replicate are real, and all of that, right? This is the legacy that we have from Western science, really development of Western science over the last 500 years. And so, wow, think about that for a minute. We are being asked and invited and implored in a way to not just live out of logic. So let's dig into this a little bit more. So Jill Bolte Taylor, who is a neuroanatomist, has developed a model for the brain, really, that she developed after she had a stroke. You may have seen her TED Talk called My Stroke of Insight. It's an incredible TED Talk if you haven't seen it. It was the very first one that went viral. And she actually has a human brain on stage at the TED Talk. It's awesome. So anyway, so she lost her left brain. The functioning of her left brain took her 8 years to rebuild her capacity. And then over the years, she really dug into this because she has a unique perspective on the brain, right? Because of her own experience. And what she has determined is that both the left brain and the right brain have a thinking center. Okay. They both have a thinking center and they both have an emotional center. Okay. We tend to think of the right brain as being emotional and the left brain as being thinking, but she says, no, actually, it's not that way. And get this, it's in the right brain, in particular, in the emotional aspect of the right brain, which is where we go to when we meditate and when we're really tuning in and we're connecting to the unified field, or the Vajrayana, we would call it in the yogic traditions, which is the great cosmic womb. I always love that, right? But we're connecting into this energetic space that enables us to move out of the time-space reality that we live in here on the planet. So that's where we go when we meditate, is we go into this space and we do it through the emotional center in the right brain. Very interesting, right? Whereas the emotional center of the left brain tends to get really kind of fixated on safety, security, and comfort. And so you can see where one is a little contracted, one's very expansive, right? Because that left brain, it's a little like, how do I stay safe? How do I stay secure, right? Where's my comfort? That's a little contracted, right? It's a little fearful. Whereas that right brain emotional energy is like, I am connected to all of creation, right? That's his invitation, is up for us, to feel into that. So what does this have to do with human design? Well, actually, before we get to, let me just name these here. So there's many, many different types of mind, right? There's the analytical mind, left brain, creative, right brain, intuitive throughout the whole system, no mind. That's that right brain place, right? Focused and concentrated. That's our left brain. Highly beneficial. We need it. And then internalized is when we're kind of we're in a kind of known mind state, but then we're moving into an awareness from the inside. This is part of what we practice when we do Kundalini yoga. So with human design, the 64 is the beginning of the sensing circuit. It's the right brain. It's showing here on the left of the chart, but it's actually the right brain. If you were to take the chart, flip it over and put it on you, the 64 is right here. Okay. So this is one primary way. There are 3 primary ways of knowing in the human design system, and the 64 is one of them. And actually the whole Sensing circuit is one of them. So this is the sensing circuit. You can see it begins in the 64, begins here, crosses over, comes down here through the throat, down around the outside of the body and up through the central channel. Okay. I don't know that it's always flowing one direction. I think these things actually flow in different directions, but let's just say that for simplicity's sake here. Okay. So this is your creative, intuitive, embodied, experiential, meditative, connected to all of creation part in the chart. Then the 61 is the beginning of the knowing circuit. So the knowing circuit is the largest sub-circuit, and it's massive. It's huge in the human design system. Comes down through the central channel, splits, goes through both sides of the body and up through the central channel. Okay, you can see how big it is. It touches every center in the chart except for the will center. It's highly influential, and it's really kind of the star of the show as we go along here. Then there's the 63, which is the beginning of the logic or the pattern circuit. Comes in through the left brain, crosses over, comes over the right-hand side of the body, and then up through that central channel. So you can see that these are three huge circuits that include most of the human design system. Doesn't include the tribal circuitry. It doesn't come in through here. The tribal circuitry has its own particular way of being. So if we were just to add this up, so I kind of took a left brain approach to this, but if we just were to add up the number of gates, okay, in each of these different circuits, we'll see that the knowing circuit, it's huge. It's 40%, okay, is intuition. 40% of the gates of this whole, all of these three different ways of knowing are in the knowing circuit, highly intuitive. 30%, which is the sensing circuit, right, is 30% of the whole. And then a logic or the patterns, the analysis, right, that kind of analytical strategic part is also 30%. So, because if you think of the left brain and right brain, right, they come in, they cross over, they go over both sides of the body and up through the central channel. So if you put them together, they're bigger than the knowing circuit because, like you've got two channels coming up through the center here. But even so, you look at that and you're like, and then think about this, right? If you were to put intuition and creativity together, 70% of our ability to know what's true, to be able to engage with life, 70% of it is intuitive and creative. Only 30% is analytical. And yet, what does our educational system teach us, right? Our educational and a lot of life teaches us that analysis is 90% of how we know what we know. Creativity, yeah, we like to kind of have a little nod to the artists, right? 10% to creativity, not very much, right? And 0 to intuition, right? 0. And yet, when you go back here, you go intuition and creativity are 70% of our capacity. And in particular, intuition is 40% of the way that we know what we know according to human design. That's some good food for thought. So what I would love is for you to just share in the comments here, like, how does that land for you when you actually look at that just statistically? How much of your ability to know is not logical and is not rational and is not strategic, right? And yet our overculture, right, the culture that we all grew up in, it tells us that that's what's valid. So if we go back to what those outer planets were showing us, they're like, intuition. Are you paying attention to your intuition? Are you utilizing your creativity? Right? So much. And yet, how much do we actually do that? Just take a breath on that. I'm going to take a little sip of water, and I'd love to hear from you. How does that land for you? Does it inspire you and make you go, yeah, I'm going to lean even more into my intuition. I'm going to develop my creativity. Or is it really disruptive? Can you be like, no, that can't be true. Right? It can't be true. Or whatever it is, right? You might find it fascinating, right? Is it something that you're like, how can I take this and utilize this in my life? Okay. So yeah, so just some comments we're getting here. It's crazy that we're so conditioned when we were kids, but I guess it was part of the program cross-up planning. Well, yeah, I mean, if you want to look at it in terms of the precession of the equinoxes, which is what you're referring to there, yeah, because that's when Western science really started to grow, right? That we also get to see how much it's limited us, right? And how much it has been a part of the rejection of our inner guidance, right? The rejection of our inner guidance. And it is necessary for governments or people who want to be in command, who want to have that power over others, to disrupt people's connection to their inner guidance. People who are connected to their inner guidance cannot be controlled. Think about that one for a minute, right? People who are connected to their inner guidance cannot be controlled. Sometimes physically, right? But generally because they are free thinking people. They're people who are connected to the heart space. They're feeling what their body's telling them, right? And so for me, this is like the project of today, is how do we become more intuitive, more creative, more embodied people? So let me just look at a few other comments here. Yeah, that explains a lot. Yeah, right? It does. Very different than what is generally accepted as knowing. Exactly, right? This is so countercultural. And when I started really getting this, it really blew my mind. I was just like, wow. Okay. Yeah. So, wow, it makes sense. And I found that emotion is my best indicator for truth. When I find, feel, or read truth, it brings tears to my eyes, right? It's true. When we're in the presence of truth, there's I think of it as like a tone. There's like literally like a harmony. It's almost like a bell, like ding, right? When we hear truth. Are you hearing that now as I'm sharing this with you? I would actually love to know that. Okay, very true. Wondering why the world is so focused on the analytic. Well, we were trained that way. I mean, like I said, in the development of Western science, right? That's where the analysis came in. And the project of Western science was to map and dominate nature, the living world. It was to track it, to analyze it. This is where physics comes from, right? To be able to categorize it, to put it into, name it, right? This is when you get people who, went around and categorized all of the different plants, Linnaeus, right? Although indigenous people have also done that, but they did it in a very different way, not with the intention of dominating the living world, right? Which is very different. Okay. Amber says, I'm flabbergasted and honestly feeling angry at our culture. And yes, it inspires me to lean into my own intuitive abilities. I love the thing that Gloria Steinem said, whatever, 25 years ago, the truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off. So the thing is that anger has a lot of energy in it, and it can be used for change. And when I really got this piece, this is why I created my Embody Your Human Design, using creativity and intuition, which we're just finishing up now. We went through the second half of the year because I was like, we need to awaken our intuition and our creativity. We really, really need to do that. The planets are very clear. They're like, hello, people, are you paying attention? With all of the closer in planets, they're going through so many more of the gates all year round. We don't have that same kind of analysis that we can get. But with the outer planets, the message is pretty clear. And so if this does activate you, if it does make you angry or it does make you disappointed, my suggestion is that you just really look at, how can I work with my intuition more? I do have a whole playlist on YouTube called Intuition by Design that goes through all the different forms of intuition in the chart. And I do also want to say your openness is highly intuitive. Okay. And like for me, I only have one gate in the sensing circuit defined in my chart. It's the 33. It's right here on the throat. It's the only one. And yet, because of my life experience and because of my own personal interest, I have developed a lot of practices for embodiment. I'm a constant mover. I mean, that sensing circuit is hugely active and beloved in my life. So it just because it's open in your chart doesn't mean that you don't have access to that energy and you haven't experienced it. The truth is you've experienced it thousands and thousands of times over the course of your life. Okay. Yes, so powerful. Make planets our inside friends to live with. Yes, I love that. I always wanted to create, but my manifestor dad with all gates in the throat and leadership channels to just learn and become something big. Lucky I found human design in my burnout. I'm glad you did too. Feels so right. In my childhood, my intuition was not encouraged. Oh, Purple Ray, I hear you. Same with me. I shut down my intuition when I was a kid because it made the adults around me uncomfortable, frankly. And I've talked to lots and lots of people for whom that's true. Yeah. I was told it was just my imagination. I love that, right? It's just your imagination. I'm like, what is imagination? But intuition. It's a form of intuition. It's a place where we connect with the all that is, right? With that creative intelligence of the universe. Gate 41, which is where the human design new year begins, is the sun in the gate 41, which is imagination. Thank you very much. Imagination. Reclaim your imagination, right? Reclaim your creativity as if imagination weren't important, right? This is... So I focused on my creativity and art. Well, that's good. And then when I wanted to study fine art, they said there was no money in art. Well, regardless, I encourage you to do your art. I don't know if I believe that there's no money in art. And I also think it's, this is classic conditioning, right? Yeah. So, yes. The economic system wants to impose its whims on others. So impose logic as the source of power. Yep, exactly. Yep. Same. Yeah. Lots of affirmation over here. Yes, there are changes in the outer planets of 2024, but I haven't tracked them, so I can't tell you what they are. All right. So there we go. Okay. So I want to just open us up for more questions. The thing I want to say about taking this information in, I want to invite you to let it change you. Let it sink in. Let it be something that awakens parts of you that maybe you've put aside for a long time. Allow your creativity to come out. Foster it. And for many years, I considered myself an artist of everyday life because my brother was an incredible artist. He was one of those people who could draw, like he could represent things. He could draw, right? And a lot of us stop painting or thinking we're creative people when we can't, make something look like something when we're drawing. We can't draw. And then we just shove it aside. So for me, I gave all that to my brother for a long, long time. And I've talked to other people who, did that with other family members also, or simply rejected the idea that it was important. Anyway, creativity was important. And then I focused on cooking, and I focused on my garden, and I focused on painting my home, and that kind of thing, right? I made my environment beautiful. And then I was fortunate enough to connect with Shiloh Sophia McLeod, who became my intentional creativity mentor, and I learned how to paint. And it totally changed my life. Uh, Intentional creativity grew me in ways that I didn't even know were possible. And I had to go through my block with my brother in order to be able to do it, because I had this idea that I literally couldn't paint. And now, I painted this painting and it ended up on the cover of my book, right? And this is a beautiful fairy ring, which are redwoods, are the 8 pillars here, right? And now I know how to create a painting like this and put my intention and my energy into it. And this painting is holding the energy of my book for me. And it's holding the energy of the book in this space. And so it's holding it for you as I'm broadcasting to you also. So there's a lot of power available to you when you start to open your creativity. I mean, one of the things that people did in my Embody Human Design, we did a bunch of different creative projects, and there were people who started playing with color and image who hadn't done that since they were like in grade school. So if you do nothing else, go get yourself some watercolors and a notebook and just play around if you haven't been allowing yourself to be creative for a long time, and just move into the space of no time, move into a different state of consciousness, which is what creativity can do for you. So, so I want to just see, I want to actually tell you about something. Let me just share this with you, and then we'll go into any other questions that you have. So I want to tell you about a couple of things. Let's see here. So this is our slideshow. So in January, I'm going to be offering a free event. It's called the 10 Days of Sovereignty. And it'll go from January 15th to the 25th. You can register for it now, femininesovereigntybook.com/10 days. And there's going to be 5 live sessions. And then on the other days, there'll be content that you get to receive and work with. And it will be housed inside of our Quantum Retreat Center. So I know a bunch of you are already in there, and you'll have the opportunity to come into a space for this. This will also be an event that gives you a sense of what the longer programs I'll be doing in 2024 are. I'm doing the Feminine Sovereignty Explorers Club, which is working with me and with our global community of feminine sovereigns, working with the book, a chapter a month, all the way through 10 sessions through 2024. And it's for those of you who are really attracted to a complete system. Like I said, human design is not a complete system. And so with feminine sovereignty, it's much more of a complete system. Of course, it's not complete, meaning, it includes everything in the whole world and anything that's ever of value. I don't mean that, but it is really looking at what are all the different components that we need to actually move along our evolutionary path with some grace and with some joy and with camaraderie, so that when we hit the parts inside of us, we meet the places inside of us that are resistant, afraid, wounded, that will have that support to be able to help those parts heal and grow and evolve. And so if you're looking for a community of purpose for next year, I would highly encourage you, come and check out the 10 Days of Sovereignty, check out the Explorers Club. It's going to be rich, it's going to be deep, and I'd love to have you come and participate if that's something you're interested in. I'm also going to be offering the Feminine Sovereignty Leadership Incubator, which is limited to 10 or 12 women or non-binaries. And I will be working very closely with everyone in that incubator. And it's much more of like a femimind or a mastermind kind of context, where you're also working with each other. And it's really for people who, you have maybe a dream, or you have a plan, or you have an idea, or you have something you've started to work on, but you know that you're either not going to be able to really bring it out on your own, or you're afraid, or you just know you want support to be able to do that. And so that's what the incubator is. And you can just stay tuned. Make sure you're on my email list. If you're not already, you can just go to becomingsovereign.mn.co, which is the retreat center. If you go in there, then you'll be on my list and you'll find out about all the good things that are coming up next year. Okay. So, all right. So what are you thinking about? What's going on? What do you have questions? Do you have comments? We have a few more minutes, and I'm happy to stay on while you want to talk about stuff. Okay. So, oh, I guess I'm on Facebook Live now. Hi, Facebook Live. I'm not really sure when you came on. So blessings. You can always watch the recording later. Okay. So, okay. I went to a Catholic school. Need I say anymore? Well, that's a whole nother layer, because then you've got a whole layer of religious programming that goes on top of the scientific programming. So it's good to kind of sort those pieces out. Okay. You once told me on a coaching call that I could never make money with art. Carol, that was a really long time ago, probably 10 years ago. So I'm sorry if that was really effective for you, but I had a different mindset back then. And also, it's not just about like making money with art. It's such a limited way of thinking about anything anyway. What does that mean? Just selling paintings? Selling paintings to make a living is really hard. Even Shiloh Sophia doesn't do that. I mean, she sells her paintings, but that's really hard. Most people do use their art in a variety of different ways with things. So anyway, just to update that. Okay. Okay. Loving the book. All right. I would love to hear, before you sign off for today, what are the top 2 takeaways that you got? Top two takeaways that you got from what I shared today. That's a way that you can share a little energy back with me, because it really helps me to kind of get tuned in to what it is that has landed for you. Yeah. Let it change you. Yes. Let it change you. Let it grow you. Absolutely. I mean, the really the project of my book on feminine sovereignty is, how do we grow ourselves into the people who can really show up powerful on the inside, great intuition, creativity, great analysis, so that we can address the big things that are going on in our world, whatever is true for each one of us in our own thing. Okay. Amber says, I want to create, but I don't know how to start. I'm a performer, theater, singer, dance, music. I have so much doubt. How do I start? So, Amber, if you come into the Becoming Sovereign Quantum Retreat Center, I think you'll find support for you in there. If you want to, you can join the Explorers Club. I think you'll find support in there. The main thing I would say when you want to start is take a look at your doubt. Do you have gates lit up on your spleen center? Because those are all fear gates. And in the Intuition by Design playlist that I mentioned earlier, there's a whole video on the spleen and the gates of the spleen and how they undermine us, how they make us afraid. And so my encouragement to you is to find out about that, because you're going to want to build your worthiness, right? Your value, the value of what it is you're providing, and your own personal worthiness as well. And those spleen gates can really throw you off with that. Okay. So that's one place that I would say. But if you come into the retreat center, we can also dialogue more about that, because I'd love to help you with that piece. Okay. Okay. I think she means, do we feel the sun transits the most? The transits you're going to feel the most are when there's a transit of a gate that is not defined in your chart, because that's when you're going to feel it the most. The sun, of course, is the most powerful being in our solar system, right? So yeah, you're going to feel the sun. But I'll tell you that Pluto, because it's been going on for so long, right? It depends on what kind of transit you're talking about, right? And I tried to kind of expand us beyond just the sun and the earth today. Could I please put a link to the 10 days event in the description? I sure can. I will put it in the description, and let's see, can I put it here? Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't have anybody with me today. FeminineSovereigntyBook.com/10 days. Did that go in? It did. Okay. So there it is. I'll also put it in the description and on the follow-up. Okay. Thank you for asking. The planets want us to reconnect with our knowledge and intuition. Exactly. Thank you, Philip. Exactly. Very much so. Because here's the thing. We, as a humanity, have benefited in a variety of ways from what Western science has brought us, right? For those of us who live in the United States or one of the wealthy countries, our lifestyles have gone up a lot. And, like we have, dry and warm homes in the winter, we have cool homes in the summer, we have running water, we have toilets, we have light, we have electricity, we have internet, like we have all this stuff, right? And so let's have blessings and gratitude for that. And we're starting to see that this is all based on us extracting from the earth and destroying the earth in not great ways that are not sustainable, right? And so now we have to grapple with that, and we have to come up with different ways of being. And for that, we need innovation. We need our imaginations. We need intuition. We need creativity, right? We need all of that, right? And so we just want to activate that. I mean, you guys have been following my transit reports for a while. I often will say, when the transits are going, the sun and earth are going through the knowing circuit, we need to open to receive different perspectives about how we can be on the planet so that we can regenerate it. We can help it heal. We can help ourselves and each other heal, right? And if we keep staying inside of that mantra of the overculture, we're not going to be able to do it, right? Because it's just kind of running us off that proverbial cliff. Right. And people who use intuition are what? I want to hear the rest of that. Okay. Lean into my intuition and knowingness, as that is how the universe is guiding us. Yeah. Exactly. Again, FeminineSovereigntyBook.com/10, the numeral 10 days. I found it very interesting how you looked at the circuits. Thank you for all your insights today. Thank you. You're welcome, Purple Ray. Number says people who use their intuition as their guide pests are free and can't be controlled. Only 30% is analytical. Isn't that a mind blower? Like, just really be with that for a little bit, right? Write about it, mull it over, talk to your friends about it. Let's start a good conversation about it. Where was the source of moving planet source you showed? I don't know, Jill. I don't know, but I'll post it on my Facebook wall. I don't think I've already put it there, so I'll put it on my Facebook wall. All right, my dears. Well, I want to really thank you for being here today, for showing up live. To those who you are going to watch the recording later, I'll put all of this stuff down in the YouTube description for you, and I'll also be putting it with the replay in our Becoming Sovereign Quantum Human Design Center. That is just, let me put this. I hope you come and join us in there. If you're not in there already, I've got some really great plans for now that my energy is coming back. It's been a little bit of a rough end of the year here. BecomingSovereign.mn.co. Come and join us in the retreat center. There's curated courses in there. We'll be doing live events in there again, and it's free to join. All right. Thank you to all of you too. All right, my dears. Many blessings. Much love. Bye for now.